Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. Boy, speaking of adventures of our lifetime, I have to tell you, I've booked all kinds of people over the shows that I've done. I've done over 12 or 1,300 now, and I've found them in all kinds of different ways, some through services, some through books I've looked at and stuff. But this one was truly unique, and I've never had this happen before. So let me tell you that story real quick, and then I'm going to introduce our guest for the hour. And about 6 months ago, I have a good friend in Canada. Her name is Rebecca, and she is very connected to a lot of people. She's an actress. She's a screenwriter. She's done some great things. And she came to me and said, I'm doing this thing, and I was wondering if I could give away an interview while we're doing this thing with a bunch of women and a bunch of creatives in Canada. And I said, well, sure. And eventually the event happened, and this particular person won the event, and she got some books from one of the authors, and she got a free interview. Well, I have to tell you, in reviewing her information and reviewing what she does and how she does it, I would have had her on had I known about her anyway, because she is really, it's remarkable what she does. And so we're going to talk about all of that and the connection that she has to her intuition and how she is able to put together the program that she does in such a really, really cool way. Right now, it's mostly for women, darn it. But one of these days, she's going to come up with a pendant for me, and we'll have to talk about that. But Susan Isaac is with us. Susan, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that Rebecca and you found me.
Oh, I'm very honored to be here. And I love, for the record, I'm glad you gave that story. I just love saying I won Kevin as a VIP gift. So how cool is that? So I'm very happy to be here and to be with your listeners and to talk about matters of the heart that make life better, because that's what you're all about.
That's my mission. That's my goal. And that's what you're doing. Because let me kind of explain. You create works of art for the individual human being, and their glass primarily, but and their pendants and things. And correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, because what you do is you take somebody's essence, their energy, and you infuse it with your own, using your own intuition, and you create a work of art that is not duplicated anywhere in the world except for that individual. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, that's how I got started doing glass pendants, because I've been a fused glass artist since 1997. So I've done lots of different kinds of layering of glass and melting it in a kiln, and I love everything glass. But I started this by working with a few women to see if I could co-create a custom pendant that would truly be theirs. And I also do ready-made pendants, which is my essence and me channeling and getting out of my own way and channeling energy to do. And I do round, but I also do butterfly, mostly butterfly wing shapes. And I also teach glass workshops. I come from the dental hygiene world as a dental hygiene teacher. So transferable skill, I started to teach glass workshops, and I've been doing that since 1998. So everything and anything is centered around the glass. And I love the fact that I've helped people get over that I'm not creative. I'm just here with my friend to keep her company. She's the creative one. That sort of comment, and helping people to realize their essence, and that what Oprah Winfrey calls the aha moment, when somebody's eyes open up and they go, oh my goodness, I'm creative, not just my friend. And that's something I can wake up in the morning for every single day, is helping people find their creative moments, because it influences everything in your life, in the corporate world, your personal life. Knowing and believing that you're a creative soul makes a difference. So, three-prong: channeling and co-creating with someone personally, very personal creative process, ready-made pendants and other fused glass works of art, and then helping people discover their creativity by coming to fused glass workshops.
Did you have a point in time, because you were teaching dentistry and on being a dental oral hygienist thing? By the way, congratulations for putting your hands in people's mouths. I've never been able to figure out how you guys can do that.
I get it. I know why.
But I appreciate dentistry to a great degree, because anyway, that's a story for another time. But was there a moment in time when you said, this is good, but it's really not what I want to do? This is what I want to do. And somebody said, well, you know what? You're not going to make any money doing that. Was there a point in time like that? Or was this just a natural flow of how you are?
Well, actually, that message that you're talking about, which is very common in North America, Kevin, is you'll not make money if you pursue any kind of creative, artistic venture. I got that message very strongly at 10 years of age from my parents and from school. You have to get serious about life. And I put everything away that I was doing, painting, doing a lot of different creative ventures, as any 10-year-old does. And basically, I put that creative part of myself away and put my paints away in a closet. And I put who I really was away in a closet, and got serious about life and got a professional, degrees and a professional job. But one of my superpowers is teaching. So I was being creative in the teaching world and sharing that part of my passion. But I didn't actually start to explore my creativity in terms of the arts until I was 47, and I was terrified. And so I locked that all up, and I had a moment where I had an intervention one weekend from a couple dear friends who were also counselors, and my husband, who were saying, you know what? You're crying for help. You need to explore this. And we know you're really scared, and you're really scared to leave hygiene, and you're really scared to leave teaching hygiene. But something's going on with you. And my poor husband, and I can't stand you, tormenting yourself like this anymore. And the next week, at that point in my career, I quit clinical dental hygiene the next week. And the adage that comes up for me, or what I remember so strongly about being 47 and so scared to do anything, I had no idea if I was creative or what I could create, if I could create, because I put everything away at 10 years of age. So what comes up for me when I remember those days is, let other people love you until you can love yourself. Because I did not love myself at that point. I had no confidence in myself that way. And I had to go on the faith that other people saw me differently, like my husband and these two friends and a couple of other friends who piped up and said, well, we've always known that you're an artist and you're creative. It's just you're the last person to know it. And I proceeded to move along with a lot of encouragement and a lot of support. And quite frankly, Kevin, I look back and I would never have done that and been brave if it wasn't for the love and supportive environment that I found myself in. And I think a lot of people wait intuitively without even knowing it, that when they feel safe, then they start to be their authentic self and to find those jewels inside themselves that are different from the life they're living at that moment. And that happened for me.
Well, Susan, a couple of things. First of all, if you're a parent and you have a child who loves to paint, loves to write, loves to do anything creative, don't stifle that gift.
Thank you.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes it can take decades for that to come back through, and they're not living the life that they actually planned for and to come here to live. And so
Yeah.
don't take your kids and say, boy, you know, because you and I grew up in an era which it was more like, boy, you know, life is hard and it's no fun, and you got to figure out how you're going to make money, and you got to do this and forget about the fun stuff. If you want to be an actor, forget about it. If you want to be a singer, forget about it. If you want to be a painter, if you want to be a creative, you can't make any money doing that. So just put that away. Put those childish things away. And if you do that, you're defeating your child's ability to be who they really are. And so I implore you, if you're a parent, and I get it, you're in your 20s somewhere, and so you're not you haven't been around that long either, but please give your kids the opportunity, because as we see with Susan, when she had the opportunity at 47, it took that long. It took 37 years for you to be able to achieve that. And
Yes.
then you flew.
Yeah.
That was what you were born to do. And it took a long time. And there was a lot of fear because you didn't know if it was going to be successful, but it is. And you knew after you did it. And you know what's funny about that, Susan, is that a lot of times our bestest friends and the people that have our backs, if you will, they're the ones who know, no, you could do this. This will be easy for you. You're terrific at doing this. And we tend to say, oh, no, I'm not. I can't do it. And why do you think we do that to ourselves?
Yeah, because of the society messages. When I married my husband, he had been told he was an artist from childhood. He never doubted it. Like his parents brought him up that way. He did every art form you can think of. He became a cybersecurity architect, but he also kept that nourished and always had this quiet confidence in his creative and artistic abilities. And he did do art in the early 80s. And late 70s, and supported himself 100% with his art. He was a stained glass artist at the time, and he wasn't scared. So I not getting those messages, I had to wait. I just had to wait. And I love what you're telling people is let kids find their way. My husband did it full time for a while, and then he didn't. And he found other ways to express himself, and he blended it. But for me, the fear was being told that I couldn't and I shouldn't. And that message is, if you can't make money at XYZ, fill in the blank, you shouldn't do it. And still at this age, with me going into another phase of my creativity and so on, I still battle that, Kevin. If I create something, just going in to create it because it pleases me and it just delights me and brings me joy. I still battle with, if I'm creating something, I've got to figure out how to make money with it. I've got to figure out how to sell it or share it. Like, I love sharing and collaborating anyway, but there's still that gremlin on my shoulder sometimes that I can't do something just for the sheer joy of it all. And I think that's called enculturation, which Dr. Pinkola Delestes says. She wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves and the Dangerous Wild Old Woman. And just that's what our culture tells us. And I listen to the culture messages. I listen to my parents. I know lots of people that said, I'm going to do art anyway, and I'm not going to listen to anybody, and especially my parents. So other people don't listen to their parents like I did, and don't listen to authority and the culture like I did. Some people are rebels right from the get-go, and good on them.
Well, and there aren't as many of them as I would like to see, because we in the United States, you're in the enlightened land of Canada, or Canada, as they say. And you guys are a little bit brighter than we are down here, because a lot of us get stuck in, and we're in our own way, and we've got to get through that. And how did you, at one point, you also became very intuitive? How did that happen?
I think I was always intuitive right from being a child, and again, it wasn't valued. But as I got older and my intuition was praised, and where it was praised and relied on by various teaching teams and so on, was in my teaching. My imagination would rise to the surface, and my passion and my intuition about we should go in this direction, or I should teach this way, or this student isn't, something's wrong. This student isn't understanding. The student is, and I felt it. I knew it intuitively, and I just got stronger. And it helps to have mentors that say, you know what, Susan, you were right about that student, and your intuition is strong and it's helpful. And so it's like a muscle. And you do need mentors, and you need people encouraging you to use that intuition and have that as strong as your intellect, and be praised along with your intellect. Remember what Einstein said. He said, your mind is very important, but it should be the servant, and your imagination and intuition should be the master. And he said this a very long time ago. And he said, and society has it backwards. And I started to realize that Einstein was right all along. And I started to grow and be very brave with my intuition and my imagination. And I'm sure that had something very strongly to do with me taking that leap with the support and love of my husband and friends to say, you know, I am an intuitive, imaginative person. I've shown that in teaching. Maybe I could do that somewhere else. That was, a piece of it.
Well, and it's a big piece of it, because if you look at, and I talk to a lot of musicians, coaches, authors, poets, artists, and to a person, they'll all tell me that their intuition plays a huge role in what it is that they do. There are people that tell me, I can't write unless I feel like I'm being called to write. Mm-hmm. And then I write it, and then I look at it, and I can't believe what I wrote, because I had no idea that I could do that.
Yeah.
It's an important thing, and we all have it.
Yes, we do.
There are just so many of us that don't believe that we've got it, and we think that it's some special thing that only a few people have. No, the universe talks to us all the time.
Yes, and that's something, because I've done a number of talks on keeping your creativity and wild woman alive and the creative process. And a fundamental belief that we need to nurture in people is what you're saying, is that we are all makers, we are all creatives, and that energy flows through us from the, like you say, the universe, and top to bottom, sideways. And sometimes it gets blocked, but it never goes away. But if you fundamentally believe that you can lose it once you get it, or have it, or experience it, or that it's only for some people and not for other people, that's terrifying. And that is when you become the disowned self. That person's creative and I'm not. I told my husband when I met him, I'll be your manager and you'll be the artist, but I'm not an artist. I mean, I was disowning myself for a long time, but it's really important that people realize that creative forces are in all of us, and we never ever lose it. And here's a really key point: we never have to deserve it, Kevin. It is our birthright. We have it all our life for one simple reason, and that's because we were born and we're on this earth. No other reason. You just have to exist. And but we have to take a look at that underlying belief if we want to keep that creativity and that passion alive. Because believe me, I worked in the corporate world for 12 years, and I've sat in brainstorming sessions and focus groups and problem solving sessions and strategies and so on. And believe me, if your creativity is alive, you get to be innovative in that group and innovative in terms of what happens in the business sector. And it's really important in every aspect of life that you walk in knowing that it's your birthright. It might be blocked that day, and you might have to walk out and say, I'm not feeling the love today, and that's okay. But it never goes away. It makes you way too scared in life if you think that.
Well, it's very, now that doesn't mean that we all are the same, because
No.
we all have different gifts. As an example, I could no more make a pendant out of glass and fly to the moon. That's just not within my, but
Yeah.
I can tell you what, I can have you on the radio and we can talk about you doing the glass more along the lines of where my creativity comes in.
Yeah.
By the way, we're talking with Susan Isaac. I'm not going to talk about the step-by-step process that you use to create these individual things. That's for people to discover. And I want them to go to your website, which is susanisaacdesign.com. And you can find out how she takes it step by step and makes a piece of art that you wear around your neck that belongs specifically to you and will not be anywhere else in the world. We need to take a quick break. And when we come back, it's only 30 seconds, so be quiet, everybody. And we'll be right back after this. And we're going to talk more about Susan, her gifts, and there's a whole bunch of things that we need to talk about. I got a feeling. And we'll be right back.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And we got a great guest here. Her name is Susan Isaac, and she is a glass designer of note. And she can do things for you that you can't do for yourself, because sometimes it takes two to develop the intuition and to use the energy that is out there to make it work for you in a very special way. And I invite you to go to her website again, susanisac.com, and find out all about the work that she does, because she does so much more than that as well, because she's a former teacher and she works with other people to teach them different things about working with glass and developing their own creativity. How do you, Susan, help somebody who comes to you and says, well, my brother over here, he's a great creative, but I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. How do you help them get through that?
Yeah, great question. And I want to go back to one other related comment that you said before the break, is that your creativity is expressed in so many different ways. I happen to love glass, but you are doing this with your passion and how you're bringing out the best in people and connecting all the dots of how people can live with passion and purpose. I had a corporation, and it was actually the financial department of a huge corporation, and they came in and did it's kind of like a team building workshop. Because I have been teaching workshops in fused glass since 1998, and I went around, and the thing is, I usually say, why are you here? But these people all had to be here. They were bussed in and they couldn't get out. I live in a very rural area, and they bussed these people in from the city, from the conference they were in. They were trapped. And
I love that, because what happens is a CEO or an executive is going to say, you know what, we're going to have a team building exercise, and we're going to all be having a great time. And then they force everybody to get in a bus and to go to this thing. And some are like, oh God, now what?
I know. I have had that experience myself. So there was no sense going around the circle of going around and everyone introducing themselves. And they were all from all over North America. So they were still getting to know each other in a way too. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to walk into the mouth of the lion here, because I knew there were people in there who didn't want to be there and didn't feel they were creative, just like you're asking me. And I went around and said, how do you express your creativity? And of course, I had a couple of people that said, I'm not creative, I'm a mathematician or whatever. But I had one woman, as I'm going along, and they were all in the financial world in this big corporation. And one woman, she just sat up straight and she held her pen and she said, I'm an accountant, and that's how I'm creative. And I have never forgotten her. She knew who she was. She knew that with her chosen profession, she was expressing her real self and her creative self with her pen and with her accounting. So, and whenever anyone thinks that it's only the arts and crafts sort of thing, I just think of that my accountant student, and just remember her and her confidence and her ease in expressing herself. So with people in my glass workshops, one of the benefits I have is very few people have ever taken a fused glass workshop. It's a brand new art medium. I don't care if you've been painting with acrylics for 30 years. You're going to walk in there and pick up little pieces of glass that you've never touched before. And so what happens is people start to move around the little pieces of glass, and I teach them how to cut glass. And some people want to cut, some don't. It doesn't matter. And they start creating something, and I help coach them. And my husband comes in and helps with coaching because he's also a glass artist. And people just start to create. They start, and I've had a couple of people who drew a blank at the end of my lecture demonstration. And one lady was sitting in, this just happened actually about 8 weeks ago. I had one woman in her late 60s sitting at her station crying. And you could, like, the big tears are coming down her face. She just, all the years that she never did art, and she had left her corporate world and was deciding to explore her her creative self. And she drew a blank. She had no idea what she wanted to do, and she felt shame, and she started to cry. And I just went up to her quietly and I said, what sort of things in your life do you love? What is a passion and something you just can't get off your mind sometimes? And she says, well, I love everything Christmas, and I decorate my home for Christmas all year round. I'm kind of obsessed with Santas and Christmas. So I said, would you be interested in trying maybe to make a Santa Claus sun catcher? And you could add that to your collection in your home. And she went, big eyes, could I? I could do that? And we went from there. So you find out what lights them up. And you can translate that. If I had been teaching a painting class, we would have painted a Santa Claus. It doesn't matter, but she got to move glass around and make this beautiful Santa Claus sun catcher. So I guess you just find out where people's hearts are. And then I take the unique medium of glass and we start pulling that together.
You know what the fun part about that is?
What?
Is that she went away from that class, I'm pretty sure, and with the dream catcher, and now she has a story
Yeah.
about her own creativity, how it came to be that she was able to do that. And it's a sense of pride. And so when you see her, if you ever see her again,
Yeah.
I'll bet you she's going to walk up to you and say, thank you, because you made a difference in my life that I didn't see myself. And
Mhm.
that's a lot of things that you do with the work that you do. Again, we're talking with Susan Isaac. She is a glass. Well, okay, I got to ask before I go to break. What would you call yourself? Are you a glass artist? Are you a jewelry glass maker thingamajig? What do you call yourself?
I don't see myself as a jeweler. There are people that are silversmiths and glass people, and they put that together in an amazing way. I'm a glass artist and a designer, because I'm designing one of a kind, fill in the blank. Because I also design glass panels and then have them photographed specially. And then I work with a design lab in Montreal online and convert it into scarves and beanies and the front of journals. But you're looking at glass, like the backdrop behind me is the front of a journal, and you're looking at deep into 4 layers of white glass behind me. So I'm just someone who loves glass.
Well, apparently so. You spend most of your time working with glass, and but the things I was looking at your website, which again, by the way, is susanisaacdesign.com, and you have some really, really pretty works that you've put together, and a lot of that is one of a kind by your intuition. I want to talk about that, your energy and your intuition, and how you take people's energy and put it into glass so that when they wear it, it is distinctly theirs.
Yes.
When we come back, we'll be talking about that. You're listening to Positive Talk on the Brushwood Media Network.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and we've got a great special guest. It's amazing because she won an award, and part of that award was she got to be on my show, which is a good friend of ours, Rebecca, asked me, and I said that would be awesome. But I got to tell you, I'd have you on if I'd known about you. I'd have you on my show regardless of if you won. But I can see why you won, because what you did is truly amazing. Now, I would like to talk to you about what some people would call the more the mystical side, which is, and by the way, Einstein said that we are nothing but energy. Tesla said we're nothing but energy. It is a scientific fact that we are energetic beings in a physical body. So let's put that to bed right now. That's just truth. That's just the way it is. But you have a way of taking the energy from the individual who you're building the whatever it is you're building in glass for them, and you're able to infuse their energy with it. Explain that process. How does that work?
Well, first of all, I do a video, and most people agree to let me put it on YouTube. So it is on my YouTube channel. And I ask people, why do you want to co-create with me? Why do you want to create a custom pendant that's your personality in the glass? what is that pendant going to mean to you? What colors do you want? And what do those colors mean to you? Because purple may mean something totally different from person to person, for example. So I get that on video. It's very short. It's only going to be about 3 minutes long. And then I take that and I start playing it in my studio, and I make a test palette, because I had one person, she only wanted pink, white, and black with a very small touch of purple, for example. And another lady wanted golds and Madeira citrin, which I had no idea what that color was. I had to look it up. And it's amethyst. It's been fired so hot that it turns gold, but it's got these rivets of black and red and purple inside the stone. So she wanted that color because it meant something to her. So I make a palette of those colors that person wants. And I have to fire little samples of glass, because glass can change color when you heat it up and leave it in the kiln for 14 hours. And so I do a test palette and do a video and make sure that my customer that I'm co-creating with, that she likes those colors. Like, what are your favorite pieces of glass now that I've fired the colors that you like? And then after we decide, and she has decided what colors she likes, because in a small piece, you can only put so many colors in. And she might choose 6 or 7, and I might end up putting 3 or 4 of her favorite pieces of glass in that piece. But I have no idea of the design that I'm going to be doing. She's already told me what the meaning of the pendant's going to be for her. What I do is I play 5 songs in a particular order, and I can only be in the studio by myself. My husband knows very well the creative process. He never, ever disturbs me when I'm doing the actual creation. And I turn on 5 songs. They have to be particular songs. They have to be in a particular order, and the order cannot be changed. And the reason is that starts to open up my energy. Like you said, we're all energy. I just need to open up my channel. And I do that. And then I play the video that I just told you about 3 times. And then I shut down the video, and then I can put the music on, random. And I can play any kind of music. And I only play like music that's kind of instrumental without a lot of words. And I don't listen to podcasts when I do this. It's got to be music. And I just start moving the glass around, and I listen with my soul, because, for example, it's a lot of tweezer work, because it's, this is a small piece, and I make a piece of glass maybe about this big, and it's 4 layers. And there's many times where I'm about to pick up a piece of glass and put it down to kind of see and feel how it's going to feel. And my elbow touches something. And I look, and my elbow is touching a piece of glass, because I've got a lot laid out. And my intuition says, I'm supposed to pick up that piece of glass that my elbow just touched. So I do. And I start fitting it together. And I really don't think, Kevin, at all. I feel. I don't think. I just move and feel. And then eventually it's done, and I fire it. And then the lady has chosen the shape that she wants. And I move the shape in like a cardboard template that you make as a kid, a cardboard cutout. And I move it around the glass and take pictures. And I send my client like 6 or 8 pictures with the shape she's already selected, and ask her to pick what her intuition says speaks to her. And then I start to work to cut it out and shape it and put it back in the kiln for another 14 hours to shine it up. And then have to put a 1 millimeter hole in 4 layers of glass with a precision drill press. And after all the work that has been done, if that piece doesn't stay cool enough, I will lose the piece. It will break because of the heat. And my husband's become quite a master at 1 millimeter holes. So he helps me with that part. And eventually the piece is finished. And then I mail it to the woman, because most often they don't live in my community. My first one was Edmonton. I've done one for a lady in Palm Springs, and so on and so forth. And then they put it on their neck, and then we have a Zoom interview where they talk about what it was like to co-create and what the piece means to them now that it's sitting on their neck. That's pretty much it.
So what do you do with somebody like me? See, this would be like our conversation. You would say, okay, what colors do you like? And it's like, I don't know. I like color. I like colors. I don't know, blue. I don't know, blue. Whatever it is. And then, so what I would say to you is, I want you to use your intuitive abilities and to make whatever you feel is right for me based upon our interactions with each other. Do you ever do that?
Some people give me that much, you might say freedom sort of thing.
Freedom! Yeah,
But,
I'm heavily into freedom.
And some people are extremely specific, and everything in between, and it's all good. But I think what would happen in our conversation, Kevin, we would start with what the pendant would mean to you. And from that conversation of the meaning of it, or what you want to celebrate, or the significance of it, some people, it's a time and place. They go back into mark a time and place where their life went in a completely different direction they did not expect. And they talk about that moment. And just as an example, and this is an obvious one, but you and I would tease that out, and colors would come out of that conversation. But this one woman, she was marked a new direction and in her life when she was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and she was about to get a divorce. The divorce was pending, and she went in a completely different direction after that. Well, needless to say, there were sunsets, sunrises on that boat, and the Pacific has a color of blue that isn't duplicated anywhere else in the world, which I didn't know. She had to teach me that. So blues and oranges and reds kind of came up for her, but she wasn't telling me colors initially. So the moment that you want to embody in your piece might be a time and place, and a place for us to start with colors in that conversation.
See, for me, I've had so many changes that have come and gone in my life. I wouldn't be able to. I don't know. We would have to go into that, because I'm sure that I could generate something that would make sense. But really, what I want out of, if I were to do something like that, is I want something that I would consider a powerful motivator for doing what I'm doing, to continue doing what I'm doing, to create something, that a platform that has millions of people listening, not because I'm doing the platform, but because it's important for them in their own personal growth and development. That's, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't know how you come up with something there, but
well, I mean, it would be a private conversation. Of course, it would go on YouTube, and then the world would also see it eventually, because that's just how you are. But when you talk about, platform and growth of people, a place that I would start with you is, I think about a plant or a tree growing, and that old saying that you plant a tree where you may not live to be in the shade of that tree. That's part of the legacy that you're building, and so on. So I would start with browns and greens conversations with you around growth and platforms. But we may go off in a different direction, but that's where I would start with you.
See, that makes it really way too much perfect sense, because I consider what I'm doing here a growing thing. Because when I first started 4 years ago, and it was like, hey, oh my gosh, somebody's listening. Can you imagine? Somebody is actually listening. And it has evolved and grown, and it's continuing to grow. And we're still in our infancy, but it is growing and growing. And that's how I would That's really, you're, by the way, you're very, very good and you're very intuitive. But you knew that, didn't you?
Pardon me?
You knew that you're very intuitive, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. But I just made that up.
Well,
Because I was just reading you. That's all. Yeah.
See, and then now that gives me the excitement of You Get Me. It's like one of those movies. You get me. It's like Sally Field. You love me. You actually like me, kind of thing, and stuff. So, by the way, we're talking with Susan Isaac. We need to take one more break, and go to our website, which is susanisaacdesign.com, and learn all about her and the process she uses to make her stuff. And then if you want something that is totally yours, wait, I got one for you. In the United States, coming up next month is Mother's Day. I think that would be a wonderful Mother's Day present, to be able to get her something that she can co-create with Susan and to really make something unique and to herself, and you, the one that made that happen. That would be a wonderful gift, because I know for a fact that when you make somebody else happy, you make yourself happy at the same time. You're listening to Positive Talk, and we need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more with Susan. So please stay with us. It's only 30 seconds, so behave yourselves. We'll be right back.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
See, that wasn't bad at all. Just 30 seconds. But anytime that you can help the older among us not get taken in their life savings, get taken and stuff, that's a really good thing. And these commercials and public service announcements that Brushwood has me run, they're really, really good. And I hope people will take them to heart in any event. We're talking with Susan Isaac. Not only is she a glass blower or a glass worker, she's an incredibly intuitive person and lives her life in that way now that she has gotten to the point where she can live her life that way, because there was a time that it was really scary for her, but now it's not so scary anymore because it works. And so, Susan, I want to thank you again for being here. I'm having a really good time talking to you. I hope you are too.
Yes, I am. You ask great questions. It's very fun.
Well, do you want to know something? Can I tell you a secret? Just you and me, so nobody else will know. I don't believe. I have, my intuitive gift is that you and I will be talking, and a question will just pop into my head. No idea where it came from, but it just pops into my head. I had a associate tell me one time. She said, it's the weirdest thing when you interview somebody, because I will be listening to the interview and I will have a question in my mind, and then you'll ask that question. So it's part of, I'm intuitive, you're intuitive. There should be a song. We're all intuitive, and but you have to trust it, and you have to say yes to it, because you can always keep it in your brain and not use your heart, but it doesn't work quite as well that way. How do you get people out of their heads and into their hearts?
Good question.
See?
Yes. Good question. Certainly going back to being a glass teacher, just because you're focusing on something brand new, you're focusing on glass, and you've got your head down. But this has happened more than once. Is people will sometimes people will have an idea in their head about what they want to make. Like, just for example, let's just use a pink flower as an example. And they have a particular flower that they want to create in a sun catcher or a plate or whatever. And they're working and they might be following Pinterest or something else where there's great examples. Like your phone is your best art tool, is to look, you often look at something. And I've had people work for like the entire 2.25 hours in a beginner workshop where they've got the creative time because the lecture demonstration's over. And I've had people 15 minutes before the end of the class. I remember this one woman, but it's more than one. She took the side of her hand and she said, "I hate this." And she just wiped it right off her clear piece of background. And I knew, and I could see her frustration building up. And I mean, I go along and I help people with suggestions. I don't direct them as to how they're going to create. That's up to them. But I'll tell them if the energy's blocked in a piece, and I'll even take a pen and show, can you see how this piece is kind of in the way? And it's like a river, like a dry rock river. And that piece is kind of in the way of the river. And they say, "Oh yeah, I can see that that's kind of in the way." And they might tweak their design. But sometimes people, the only way that they can start to create is to create from their mind first, because they don't trust their intuition. They have possibly never created with their intuition leading the way. And they have to discover that for themselves. So when someone takes their hand and just wipes the whole piece clean at 15 minutes before the end of a class, I go, okay, now we're going to get some really good stuff. And then because they've had some practice with the material and the tweezers and whatever, and maybe some favorite colors, pink being, because we talked about a pink flower, they all of a sudden in that 15 minutes, they start assembling it, and they don't have time to let their head be first. They're running out of time, and their intuition kicks in, and they create from that heart piece, and they get that experience. And they look back, and like you said earlier, they look back and they go, "I can't believe I did that," because you say that with your shows. "I can't believe I asked that question. I can't believe this show turned out this way." And they do the same thing. They look back and go, "I can't believe this pink flower turned out this way. It wasn't what I planned." But so they get in that experience. So I watch the frustration level. And if somebody's in the corner crying, like I told you about this one lovely woman, I will step in. But I watch the frustration with people because they need to feel that frustration, and they need to go, "Wait a minute, that's not right. I'm moving that piece off, or I'm just going to wipe the whole thing and start over." So that's how I do it in a class. And when someone's doing a custom pendant with me, we have a one-on-one conversation. So I just get to talk through people feeling stuck or frustrated. And we can do that one-on-one. It's a lot easier than in a class.
Now, do you find that when you give one of these pendants that is custom made for an individual, and you infuse it with your energy and their energy, do you get responses from them that this particular piece of glass means something extraordinary to them, or that there is a change within them, or that there's a change with other people around them, or what people view of it is? I guess what I'm asking is there fundamental change when you put that together, because now their energy is being transformed, not transformed, but sent out away from them, and other people are observing it. Is that
Yeah. And
does that make any sense at all?
Yes, it did. And it's actually, I can tell you exactly a couple of clients what happened. To just answer your question, there's a woman, one of her a custom piece. She's at a fundraising gala where you really dress up, in the tuxedo and the beautiful gown and everything. And she's sitting at a table at this fundraiser in a big ballroom with her husband. And she's a lovely looking lady, and she loves to dress up with a lot of glamour. And she has her pendant on. And the women so far have always, by the end of the creative process, if you're doing a custom piece, they always come up with a name by the end, and they name their piece. The ready-made pendants, I'll put those on Facebook and get people to help me name them, but always the custom people come up with that. So she's sitting there looking gorgeous and with her husband, and she sees this young man in his early 20s walking across the ballroom. And she says to her husband, and not in a conceitful way at all, she says, honey, I think this young man's coming up to tell me how beautiful I look tonight. And the young man comes up and he says, excuse me, miss, I just want to tell you that I absolutely love your pendant. And another woman tells me she's walking down the street, minding her own business with her custom pendant on. And a gentleman walks across the street, and she's a little bit taken back, and he takes his finger and he almost wants to touch her pendant. And he walks across the street and he says, I love your pendant. And so, and the stories go on, and some speakers I have had the honor of creating for some speakers and authors. And they have said they've had people come up to them after they get off stage and they've got their pendant on going, I just came over to say, I have to meet you. I just love your pendant. I saw it up there on stage all this time. I mean, they obviously love that person as the speaker as well. But there's story after story where the energy speaks for itself. I don't even need to think a moment about what's going to happen after something's created. You let the piece speak for itself. You let the person put it on and just let the energy, like you say, everything's energy, just let it flow and just let it happen. And so one thing I would caution people, if you do this process, be sure that you don't mind attention.
Oh, that'll get people a going. It's like, if you want attention, go to
it happens,
well, and the reason that it happens is because it is infused with that person's energy, and it radiates out through them and from them, and other people pick up on that, and they're drawn to it, and they may be drawn actually to the entire person, but the focus is the pendant, because that's the visible thing that nobody else has that is unique. Susan, I thank you very much. I really have enjoyed talking with you today. It's been great fun.
It has been wonderful fun, and thank you for your wonderful questions and being curious about a creative process, because I love listening to how painters create and how does that potter make that beautiful mug, or a sculptor. And it's very fun to listen to everyone talk about. And don't forget the accountant, how she would be creative. That's a conversation too. So
exactly. The only thing that I would caution you about being a creative accountant is don't run into Donald Trump. That probably won't go well, because he's going to have you be creative in ways you probably don't want to.
Just enjoy your passion, right?
That's exactly right.
It's been fun, and it's great to laugh, and it's great to explore with you, Kevin. You believe in keep staying open and curious, and that's really what the creative process is all about.
Well, I just love having you, and you did a great job, and I really appreciate it. And thank Rebecca next time you see her, if you see her before me. SusanIsaacDesign.com. Go there. Mother's Day is coming. Hint, 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 hint. And trust me, these things are not that expensive. And if it's a one of a kind, you can't do any better than that. So, Susan, thank you so much for being here. And I really appreciate having you. So wait right there. I'll be right back. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin